Most people say they care about truth. They say they want to understand things. They say they are open to being wrong. That sounds good, it sounds fair, but everyday life shows something else. Think about a moment when someone told you that you were wrong. Not in a big way, just a small correction, a detail, a different opinion. Notice what happened inside you. Before you thought about the facts, you felt something, a tight feeling, a push to respond, a need to explain yourself. You wanted to show that you were not careless, that you were not stupid, that you had a reason. This happens fast. You might interrupt, you might raise your voice, you might repeat your point again, just louder. You might smile but feel irritated. Even if you stay polite, something inside you is already fighting back. Being wrong does not feel neutral. It feels like losing ground. It feels like being seen as less capable, less informed, less worthy of respect. That feeling shows up even in small moments, in conversations with friends, with partners, with coworkers, online. That is why being right starts to matter more than the topic itself. You stop listening. You wait for your turn to speak. You look for flaws in the other person's words. You remember examples that support you. You forget the rest. Later, you might tell yourself you were just passionate, that you care about getting things correct, that details matter to you. But if you look closely, something else is there. Being right protects how you see yourself. It keeps your image intact. It tells you that you know what you're doing, that you are not lost, that you have control. When someone agrees with you, it feels good. When someone challenges you, it feels personal. Even if you say it doesn't. This shows up everywhere, in arguments that go nowhere, in debates that turn sharp, in relationships where the same issues repeat. Someone needs to be right, someone needs to win, and often both people leave feeling misunderstood. Needing to be right feels like strength. It feels confident, it feels solid. But most of the time, it is about safety. Being right keeps you from sitting with doubt. It keeps you from feeling exposed. It keeps you from facing the uncomfortable idea that you might not know as much as you think. Most people recognize this feeling when they slow down enough to notice it. They just don't like admitting how much being right helps them feel secure. When being right matters this much, Jung would not start with logic. He would start with fear. Not loud fear, quiet fear, the kind people do not like to name. Being wrong does not just feel like a mistake. It can feel like exposure, like something inside you is being seen. When someone points out that you are wrong, it can touch old feelings, feeling small, feeling ignored, feeling not good enough. Jung would say this is why the reaction comes so fast. The ego moves before thought. It defends, it explains, it pushes back. Not because the point is wrong, but because the feeling is uncomfortable. Most people do not notice this. They think they are defending an idea. In reality, they are defending themselves. When you insist on being right, you are often protecting an image, the image of being capable, of being smart, of being someone who knows what they are doing. Letting that image crack feels dangerous, so the mind hides the doubt. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of us we push away because they don't match how we want to be seen. Uncertainty lives there. Not knowing lives there. The possibility of being wrong lives there. When someone challenges you, the shadow stirs. Instead of looking at it, you argue, you correct, you justify, you raise your voice or your certainty. This keeps the shadow out of sight. Over time, this becomes automatic. You do not pause to ask why being wrong feels so threatening. You just react. The reaction feels like confidence. Jung would notice how exhausting this is. Always defending, always holding your ground, always needing to be certain. The cost is quiet but real. You lose curiosity, you lose flexibility. You stop listening deeply because listening might change something. Being right becomes a shield, and the more you rely on that shield, the harder it becomes to lower it. Even with people you trust, even in moments where being wrong would not really matter. Jung would say that growth does not start when you win an argument. It starts when you can sit with not knowing without panicking. But as long as being right protects you from something you do not want to feel, the need will stay strong. After the reaction settles, a story steps in. This is where Nietzsche would look closely. He would not ask whether you are right or wrong. He would ask what your need to be right gives you. When being right matters, it quickly turns into a story about strength. You tell yourself that you see things clearly, that you are realistic, that you are not fooled like others. This story feels good. It places you on solid ground. Nietzsche noticed how easily this happens. A belief or opinion stops being just an idea. It becomes a position, a stance, something that says who you are. Being right starts to feel like being strong. In this story, doubt looks weak. Changing your mind looks unstable. Listening too much looks like losing your edge. So you hold your ground, you repeat your point, you defend it with confidence. The story protects you. If you are right, then you do not have to question yourself. You do not have to feel uncertain. You do not have to face the fear of not knowing. The story keeps you clean and steady. Nietzsche would say this is not about facts, it is about meaning. Being right gives meaning to your effort, to your past decisions, to the way you see the world. If you were wrong, something else might fall apart, so the story grows stronger. You start to see disagreement as attack. You hear questions as challenges. You treat conversations like contests. Someone wins, someone loses. And winning feels good. It brings relief. It brings a sense of order. It brings the feeling that you are on the right side of things. Even when the topic is small, the feeling is big. Nietzsche warned that this is how truth gets replaced by comfort. The story is not checked against reality. It is checked against how it makes you feel. If it keeps you upright, confident, and certain, it stays. Over time, the story becomes automatic. You don't ask whether you need to be right, you assume you should be. This shapes how you see others. People who agree with you feel smart. People who disagree feel wrong, stubborn, or blind. This keeps your position safe. Nietzsche would say the danger is not pride. The danger is rigidity. When being right matters too much, learning slows down. Curiosity fades. The story keeps you standing. It also keeps you stuck. At some point, the need to be right stops being about feelings and starts being about effects. Not what you mean, not what you believe, but what happens because of it. This is where Machiavelli would look. He cared less about intentions and more about results. When being right matters too much, it shapes how people move around you. Conversations change. People become careful. They choose their words. Some stop disagreeing altogether, not because they agree, but because it feels easier. This creates order. Order looks calm from the outside. Fewer arguments, fewer questions, fewer interruptions. Things move faster when no one pushes back. That can feel efficient. It can even feel like leadership. Machiavelli would notice who benefits from this. The person who needs to be right often gains control without asking for it. Their certainty sets the tone. Their confidence becomes the standard. Others adjust. They let things slide. They keep doubts to themselves. Over time, this becomes a pattern. Ideas stop being tested. Mistakes repeat. Problems stay longer than they should. But because things look stable, no one rushes to change them. Stability becomes more important than accuracy. Being right also shifts responsibility. When one person holds the truth, others stop owning their judgment. They follow the lead. If something goes wrong, the blame feels unclear. Everyone was just going along. Machiavelli would say this is how power settles, quietly, without force, through habit, through the comfort of certainty. The cost is not immediate. It builds slowly. Trust thins. People speak less honestly. Real feedback disappears. What remains is agreement on the surface and silence underneath. For the person who needs to be right, this can feel confusing. They may wonder why people pull away, why conversations feel flat, why nothing new seems to happen. From Machiavelli's view, the answer is simple. When being right matters more than being open, the space for change closes. Things keep working, but they stop improving. Most of the time, this is not done on purpose. It grows naturally from small moments, small wins, small corrections, small choices to defend instead of listen. And once this pattern is in place, questioning it feels risky because being right is no longer just personal. It holds everything together. Being right does something else that is easy to miss. It makes life feel calmer. It reduces uncertainty. It gives the mind a place to rest. This is where Hill fits. When you believe you are right, you don't have to keep checking yourself. You don't have to pause and wonder. You don't have to sit with doubt. Things feel decided. That feels good. Certainty is comforting. Hill would notice how being right gives people energy. It gives them confidence to move forward. It turns hesitation into action. When you feel sure, even if that certainty is fragile, you feel stronger. This is why being right can feel motivating. It removes friction. It makes effort feel justified. You tell yourself you are on the right path, so continuing makes sense. Doubt slows people down. Not knowing feels heavy. It drains energy. It creates hesitation. For many people, being right is not about winning. It is about avoiding that weight. Hill would not criticize this. He would see it as human. People need something to lean on. They need to believe their effort matters. They need to feel they are not wasting time or moving in the wrong direction. Being right offers that reassurance. It tells you that your choices make sense, that your past decisions were not mistakes, that the road you are on is the correct one. This belief makes it easier to keep going, even when things are hard. But comfort has limits. When being right becomes the main source of stability, questioning it feels dangerous. Letting go would mean facing uncertainty again. It would mean slowing down. It would mean admitting you might need to adjust. Most people avoid that, so they choose comfort over openness. They choose certainty over curiosity, not because they are stubborn, but because certainty feels lighter to carry. Hill would say this is how people protect momentum. They hold on to what gives them confidence, even if it no longer fits perfectly. The goal is not accuracy. The goal is emotional balance. Being right keeps the inner world quiet. And when life already feels demanding, that quiet can feel necessary. Most of the time, we already know this. We just don't like hearing it said.